You've heard the stories. The diss tracks, the public jabs, the headline-grabbing scandals. But what if the media only ever showed you the tip of the iceberg? What if the real conflict wasn't fought on the streets or in the studio, but in the boardrooms, over multi-million-dollar deals, and for the very soul of hip-hop's legacy? This isn't just about a rapper beef. This is the story of three titans: Rick Ross, 50 Cent, and Jay-Z battling for a billion-dollar throne. A war where the winner wasn't the loudest, but the one who moved in silence. Get ready, because we're exposing the true battle for hip-hop's empire. The world saw Rick Ross, the charismatic, larger-than-life figure who built an empire on a boss persona. He was the Teflon Don of hip-hop, a man who, no matter what came at him, seemed to emerge unscathed and even more powerful. His story, however, is a masterclass in turning a weakness into an unassailable strength, a public humiliation into the foundation of a dynasty. When the beef with 50 Cent began, it wasn't a slow burn. It was an explosive, career-threatening ambush. 50 Cent at the peak of his social media and viral marketing power weaponized a past truth. Ross had worked as a correctional officer. This revelation was meant to be the fatal blow, a complete dismantling of the boss persona he had built. In the hyper-masculine, street-cred-obsessed world of hip-hop, being a former law enforcement officer was an image killer. The public ridicule, fueled by 50's relentless campaign of diss tracks like Officer Ricky, Go Ahead, Try Me, satirical cartoons, and even an infamous interview with Ross's baby mama, was unprecedented. It was a digital assault designed to break his career, to make him a laughingstock. But Ross did something unexpected. Instead of cowering, he doubled down on his image. He embraced the absurdity of the situation, often ignoring the attacks publicly while subtly weaving a new narrative through his music. He didn't deny his past, but he didn't let it define his present. He made it clear that what mattered wasn't where you came from, but where you were going. He became the architect of his own mythology, one where he was the unshakable leader, the boss who was so rich and powerful that the noise of a bitter rival was just that noise. The most crucial element of his survival was his music. During this period of intense scrutiny, he released some of the best work of his career. Albums like Deeper Than Rap and Teflon Don. These were not just records. They were manifestos. They were sonic monuments to his resilience, filled with cinematic beats and luxurious tales of success. He created a new subgenre of luxury rap that was aspirational and undeniable, distracting from the personal attacks. By delivering a product that was simply too good to ignore. He also had key allies. His relationship with Jay-Z was pivotal. Jay-Z, who had signed him to Def Jam and collaborated with him on classic tracks, served as a mentor and a powerful ally. While Jay-Z never directly intervened in the public beef, his mere presence and continued support of Ross gave the Miami rapper a level of credibility that 50 Cent could not dismantle. Jay-Z's endorsement was like a protective shield, signaling to the industry that Ross was a legitimate player, regardless of what his past held. The conflict was not a battle for a rap crown, but a strategic game of chess. While 50 was moving pawns with memes and diss videos, Ross was building his fortress, piece by piece, track by track. He took the low road and turned it into a high-rise. He showed that, in the modern era of hip-hop, a beef could be won not just by being the best lyricist or the most vicious on the mic, but by outmaneuvering your opponent in the marketplace and the court of public opinion. He turned his biggest vulnerability into his greatest asset, forever changing the rules of the game. The boss persona wasn't just a gimmick. It was a psychological weapon that allowed him to project an image of invincibility, even as his world was under siege. His legacy isn't just his music. It's the lesson that you can outlast and outsmart your enemies by focusing on your own success. Building a brand so powerful that it makes the attacks of others seem irrelevant. To understand 50 Cent's role in this conflict, you have to understand his history. His entire career was built on the back of beef. From his infamous How to Rob track to his decade-long war with Ja Rule. 50 Cent was a master strategist, a relentless combatant who believed in a total war approach. For him, a beef was not just about music. It was a tactical operation to dismantle his opponent's career, brand, and livelihood. When he set his sights on Rick Ross, it wasn't personal, at least, not at first. It was a calculated decision to attack a new rising star who was building a brand in a similar vein to his own. The Officer Ricky revelation was the perfect weapon. 50 understood that in the internet age, the truth could be more damaging than any fabricated insult. He didn't just drop a diss track. He created an entire multimedia campaign. The Officer Ricky cartoons, the interviews with Ross's baby mama. The constant trolling on social media yet was a pre-Instagram viral marketing assault. A blueprint for how to dominate a beef in the digital age. He was a pioneer in using the internet to turn a feud into a spectacle. For 50, the goal was simple: expose the fraud, destroy the persona, and leave nothing but a shell. He was a gladiator in the digital arena, and he had no qualms about fighting dirty. He saw the hypocrisy in Ross's image and was determined to expose it to the world. But his battle was not just with Ross. It was also a subtle, years-long shadow. War with Jay-Z? This rivalry was different, a clash between two different philosophies. 50 Cent represented the old school of direct confrontation and street cred, while Jay-Z was the new school of corporate strategy and boardroom dominance. The beef between them was never a head-on collision, but a series of cold wars and proxy battles. The friction began in the early 2000s with subtle jabs and a rivalry for the King of New York title. 50 Cent famously dissed Jay-Z on How to Rob before he was even a household name. Their beef came to a head in the mid-2000s over a series of incidents. Most notably, the Summer Jam stage moment and the PIMP. 50 Cent felt Jay-Z was undermining him, using his status to assert dominance without having to get his hands dirty. When 50 Cent was in a beef with someone, he expected others to pick a side. Jay-Z, however, consistently positioned himself above the fray, collaborating with both 50 and his rivals, which 50 Cent saw as a sign of weakness or a calculated power play. The Rick Ross beef was a direct result of this philosophical divide. When Jay-Z, the head of Def Jam, supported and championed Ross during the height of 50's attack, it wasn't just about a label head backing his artist. It was a subtle but powerful move against 50 Cent. It was Jay-Z saying, "Your methods are obsolete." The new war is fought with business moves, not just diss tracks. 50 Cent, ever the street-level tactician, was left to fight a war he couldn't win. He won the battle of public opinion in the short term, but he lost the war for long-term relevance. He was still a king, but he was fighting in a different kingdom, one that was rapidly losing its influence. The media tried to bury this aspect of the beef because it wasn't as simple as a lyrical battle. It was a complex, layered conflict about business, power, and the evolution of hip-hop itself, with 50 Cent caught in the middle of a shifting landscape. Jay-Z's role in this saga is the most nuanced and, perhaps, the most important. He was never directly in the line of fire, yet his presence was felt in every move, every countermove. While 50 Cent and Rick Ross were trading lyrical blows and online insults, Jay-Z was playing a different game, a game of chess in a world that was still playing checkers. His feud with 50 Cent was never a traditional beef. It was an ideological clash between two kings who each believed they were the rightful heir to New York's throne. 50 Cent's rise was a direct threat to Jay-Z's position, and Jay-Z, a master of subtle disses, responded in kind. Instead of an entire album of diss tracks, he would drop a single, the surgical line on a guest verse that would send a shockwave through the industry. His famous line on the I Get Money remix? In case y'all forgot. New York is still mine was a direct shot at 50 Cent's dominance. A quiet assertion of power that was all the more impactful for its subtlety. He understood that a true boss doesn't need to get his hands dirty. He has lieutenants to do the fighting for him. When Rick Ross emerged, Jay-Z saw an opportunity. Not just in a talented artist, but in a pawn he could use to his advantage. He signed Ross to Def Jam and co-signed his boss persona. By throwing his weight behind Ross, he was not just supporting an artist, he was indirectly challenging 50 Cent's authority. He created a proxy war, positioning Ross as the new face of a different kind of street rap, one that was less about past struggles and more about future wealth. The brilliance of this move was that it made Jay-Z untouchable. He could remain above the fray, a respected elder statesman, while his signed artist fought the battle on his behalf. This was the billion-dollar aspect of the beef. While 50 Cent was focused on destroying a reputation, Jay-Z was focused on building an empire. He saw the vitamin water deal, the fashion lines, and the record labels not just as sources of revenue, but as weapons in a silent war for cultural dominance. The media tried to bury this part of the story because it was too complex to fit into a simple he said, she said narrative. Jay-Z's strategy was not about winning a moment, but about winning the future. He allowed 50 Cent and Rick Ross to fight a public battle while he secured his position as the unquestioned mogul of the music industry. His legacy is not built on diss tracks, but on ownership, influence, and the strategic positioning of his brand. He was the quiet architect, watching the war unfold from his penthouse, smile on his face, knowing he had already won. From the explosive public attacks of 50 Cent to the resilient counterpunching of Rick Ross, and the silent, strategic maneuvering of Jay-Z, this was a battle that was far more significant than it appeared on the surface. The real story isn't about who won a diss track battle, but about the clash of eras and ideologies that defined the future of hip-hop. What do you think? Did the media miss the true story of this beef? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this deep dive insightful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more exclusive hip-hop analyses, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next expose. Thanks for watching. Asterisk.